So we have Sullivan, but you go, everybody here calls you Sully, right? Sullivan Tindal.
Among other names, Sullivan Tindal, why I usually go by.
Which one do you answer to?
Sullivan would be good.
Okay, all right. So we have Sullivan Tindal. And we're going to start out today by asking you where you were born.
Matter of fact, I was born 12 miles down the road, in Hampton,
Where?
Hampton County, yes, ma'am.
Really? Huh. You were too. Hampton, South Carolina.
Yeah. And then I was raised at this big city of Grays of South Carolina, which is about 12 miles south of Hampton.
Oh. So you kind of stayed in the hood, huh?
I stayed in the neighborhood.
Sounds like it. All right, tell me about your parents. Who were they and what were they doing? What were they?
Oh, my daddy was Sullivan Tindal. My mother was a Lillian Gertrude Davis before she was married. And before she married my daddy, she was Tindal then.
Mm-hmm.
I had wonderful parents.
Okay.
I didn't want to grow up, but I did.
I know.
You heard kids say, man, I wish I could grow up and get out of here. I never really wanted to get out of here, you know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I love my mom and daddy the day they died as good as I did when I was 10 years old.
No. Did you have siblings? Have brothers and sisters?
Yeah. Yeah, I had 4 sisters and 3 brothers. Excuse me. I had 4 sisters and 2 brothers.
2 brothers. You were the 3rd brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had a close-knit family. Our family was always loving each other. Never was no bickering in our family, nothing.
Aren't you lucky? Nice.
Daddy always tell us, he said, son, you can do something to make me mad, you're going to get by with it. But I'm going to tell you something. If mama ain't happy, there ain't nobody happy. So don't plan on making her unhappy.
So did anybody else go in the military besides you?
Yeah, my 2 brothers.
Your 2 brothers did?
Yeah.
All right. So were you enlisted or did you sign up or?
I drafted.
You were drafted?
Yeah, I like 2 years finishing high school when I went in. I tried to get a deferment and they said, no, Uncle Sam needs you too bad. So I came back after 3 years. When I got out of service, I came back, went back and finished the last 2 years of high school.
Good for you. Good for you. So when was your service dates from? From what? When did you go in?
Well, what was it, June or something other? When you started having that big draft.
Okay. So 06, what year?
I said, I was born in 1925, and when I turned 18, that's when they sent me in the military.
Okay. So
43.
43?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
good boy.
I'm a mathematician here. What was your highest rank in the military?
Corporal.
All right.
Me and them weekend passes always had a run in, and I didn't keep my ratings too long.
All right, so at the time that you entered the service, you were 18 years of age, so out of high school, and still in high school. Then you went back to high school. So what branch of the military did you serve in?
In the Army.
Which is the Army, okay.
I went in take my basic training in Camp Shelby, Mississippi. And then finished that and went to basic training Camp Shelby, Mississippi, and then went to Camp Shanks, New York. And that was jumping off point going overseas.
Oh, okay. So where did you do your training? Where did you go to? That was where you went to boot camp?
Yeah.
There. And how long was that?
16 weeks of it.
16 weeks? And then you were off overseas?
Yeah. The first time, the first bunch I trained with, you had to turn 19. In other words, to pass the law, they couldn't send you overseas until you turned 19. So the first 6 weeks, the first 8 weeks, I take the basic training with that bunch and they went to the Pacific. Then I had to take another 8 weeks until I turned 19 years old.
Okay, all right. And so then you headed out, and where did you go to?
Now,
Where did you go to?
after I left,
Yes.
went to,
Where did the Army move you to?
they moved to Camp Shanks, New York.
All right. And what happened there?
We stayed there. We got a boatload to go overseas, and then when they moved us out. I tell you, I'm bad on remembering dates and all, you know.
That's all right. We can skip. I am too. So when they moved you out, where did they move you to? You went overseas?
We went overseas. We went overseas and was going to England when we left New York. Well, anyhow, it come up a big storm. We had to these two through the North Atlantic around the storm. So then that's when they decided to make the invasion in France. So instead of going to England, they sent us to France to make the invasion there at Normandy. And I went in with the second wave to hit that beach.
Wow. You were right on top of things there.
And then we went all the way from France across Germany and Czechoslovakia, and we met up with the Germans again in out on the Enns River right out of Berlin. And then they pulled us back and let the Russians take it, which was always a regret for them.
Tell us more about that invasion, that D-Day, you and D2 Day, the second wave.
That was one of the worst days of my life.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
That's the day that you knew you don't even know you're in the world, you know, you're so scared. When I stepped off that landing barge, I stepped in one of them washouts like on the beach, went up to my chin. I stayed wet there for 3 days. So then we finally, after we established a beachhead, then it had what they call Camp Lucky Strike. We got there, the Seabees had a tent there where we could take a shower and change clothes. That was a good shower.
What was it like seeing, you saw people shot around you and everything? What was that like?
That's what I'm telling you, you were so scared, you were so numb, you didn't know what was going on around you. Because you didn't know whether you was going to be the next one or not.
Wow.
Now I saw, well, there was 255 of us in our company. And whenever we finished up, there was 55 of us left.
Goodness.
Okay. It's like that makes me take a deep breath, a very deep breath.
Okay, so so you pushed them up. Let's hear more about the combat and the shooting and everything. You went a long way up, all the way to Berlin. So tell us about some of those battles going up there.
Well, whenever we crossed the Rhine River there, it took about 2 days to cross that. That don't sound right. But every time the engineers would put in a pontoon bridge, the Germans would blow it out. They finally got enough reinforcements up to protect the bridge then until they could get it built and get their tanks and men across. And then our next big one was a town called Sullivan. And we lost a bunch of men in that town. It was a small town, but them Germans had that thing well fortified. We lost a whole company of men in that.
How do you spell that name, Sarloff? The name of the town. S-A-R?
It's S-A-R. So I wish I had that. I had a history book of the route that 65th Division taken from the time they first activated them until the end of the war when they got rid of it.
We can look that up.
Yeah, you can get off the
Yeah.
internet. Now, I had one company commander from the time I went in there that I got out of service.
What was his name?
Captain Harris.
Harris.
That was a good man. Yeah.
Good man.
And I'll tell you all a little tale about the end of the war now. The 65th Division used to have what they call a mini reunion every year. Fellas that are still living in 65th Division, they'd have a meeting place like in Charleston, New Orleans or somewhere like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had one in New Orleans. I went down there. Whenever we went in, they occupied the whole motel,
Mm-hmm.
We went in there, and so that day well, in the meantime, my wife had died, and I had my girlfriend with me. And I walked in there, and my captain, that same company commander, said he was sitting on the couch in the lobby, and I went in. He said, "That's my worst nightmare right there." Now, that'd been 52 years, but he still remembered me.
And why did he call you that?
Huh?
Why did he call you that? Funny? Just being funny?
No, he said, you never know which side the rope fall on. But The last time I seen him, he had long, blonde, curly hair. So he had gotten married, and his hair was just as slick as that wall there. So, oh man, I said, you got a short haircut since the last time I seen you. He said, right there. She said, if he mess around me, he ain't gonna have that much left either. I said, is he that bad? I said, yeah. She said, yeah. I said, I tell you, he was a good man to me. And he looked at my girlfriend and said, how you put up with this jerk like that there? She said, he's a sweet boy. She said, you must have seen the side of you I didn't see.
So can we go back to Berlin? Do you mind talking about that some more?
Well, you know, our job was pulling guard duty on the Inns River, where we couldn't have nobody coming from Berlin side to our side. Now that Inns River, that thing runs swift. You allowed to see anything come floating down there. And our job was pulling guard duty on this, so if anybody come across that, we picked them up and had a stockade we had to put them in so they could interrogate them to see if it, all right, you know, to turn them loose.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I mean, there's two girls come across there one night. My buddy, he was kind of like me, you know, he was crazy. He said, y'all want to go to stockade? You want to go with us? He said, well, I don't know what y'all are, but I know what stockade is. I'll go with you.
Okay. So who else did you encounter coming across the bridge, or
You know, just the Germans.
just the Germans?
Yeah.
Just the Germans.
Did you have
Yeah.
some friends shot beside you that really hurt your feelings and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Man, they had some that were just like brothers with you. You know, you eat and sleep with them every day for years, and all of a sudden it comes to an end, you know.
Did you have one really special friend over there?
Yeah, but you know, luckily me and him both survived, you know. Because when the war was over and I got out, see, I came back to the States before he did. But I really came back to the States to go to the Pacific. And then the war in the Pacific had ended, so I didn't have to go there. So that Christmas morning, somebody knocked on the door and went, it was him. I said, man, I said, where you blow in there from? He said, man, he said, I miss you so bad since you've been gone, I just had to come see you. And you know, he was going to Virginia to work a car bumper factory up there and tried to get me to go with him, but I had just gotten married. I said, boy, I can't leave my wife. On second thoughts, I should have, but anyhow, he went on, and I got thinking about him one day, and I said, I'm going to look him up. I called his hometown in Youngstown, Ohio. I couldn't get no trace of his family, you know. So then I called this lieutenant was in charge of these reunion we had. He said, I can find you. About 6 months later, he called me and said, Sullivan, he said, Charlie just dropped off the face of the earth. He said, I got to get in touch with him and none of his family. So I don't know what happened to him. Things drop out of your life just like to drop into it.
Yeah. What are some of the most closest escapes you had while you were in some bad combat? What was some of the closest things you had to getting injured?
Friend, I'm going to tell you, it was all bad. But I'm going to tell you one incident that always laid on my mind. This town of Charlotte, I was just telling you about.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a cul-de-sac in a little village. Of course, we had been defending it there for about 3 days. And we was all sitting in these buildings, you know, around there. And a little girl about 7 years old, she walked out there. And the minute time she walked out in the middle of that cul-de-sac, shell hit on her, and there wasn't nothing but a crater there where she was standing. And that thing has always worked on my mind worse than anything else, how quick she disappeared. There wasn't even in her clothes where she was standing there.
Just a crater.
That's right. So then, while we was pulling guard, if I'm skipping around too much for you, just let me know.
Yeah, we'll keep
I
on track.
have to try to tell you kind of as it comes to me. So while we was pulling guard duty on the Inns River there, so we had about 90 men stayed in old German barracks there. Of course, they had out cook and everything. And so we had the same cook we had when we left the States. I told him, I said, thank the Lord you didn't get killed, boy. He said, boy, I stayed so far behind I couldn't get killed. So they had deer around there just like, or deer is thicker than cattle is, right? In other words, anywhere you look around there, you can see a deer. So one of the old Charlie said, let's kill a deer. Well, now, they're supposed to have a ceasefire. There wasn't supposed to be a fire, shot fire nowhere. So he said, let's go kill a deer. I said, all right. So there was an old overlooking a valley there, like, we went up and laid up there on that knoll, and so we shot a deer down in the valley and killed him. And that rifle no sooner than cracked before here come an MPG. He said, boy, I don't know whether we'll get out of this young or not. I said, well, we got out of a tough situation before. So them MPs got out. They never get out, gee, they just stood up and looked all around, you know. So then when they left, we went and got the deer and carried back up on the knoll so we were away from the road. We carried him on down there back to the camp, told Sergeant Dappin and said, we got the meat for supper now if you'll cook it. He said, I'll cook it. We left the deer there and he cleaned it and cooked it. He had deer cooked there every way you could think of a cooking deer. Now he was a good cook. So that night when they even called a regimental commander, he come down and eat with us. He said, I ain't gonna even ask who shot this deer. And old Charlie looked at me and said, ain't no need for him to ask, or we ain't gonna tell no how. No. So it passed on there about 3 or 4 weeks. We was in there. It kind of had a little day room where everybody sit around and reminisce on what happened during the day. Captain said, son, I want to ask you something. I said, don't get too personal now. But I said, I'll tell you what you're going to ask me. He said, what is it? I said, you're going to ask me if I one shot deer. I said, yeah, I did. He said, you know, I can't court-martial you for being honest, you know, because that was a good evening. So, I mean, it was dropped dead. You never heard of it again.
Yeah. What about the encounters with the Germans? Did you have some close encounters where you saw them face to face?
Oh, yeah. Always helped me one bullet. I didn't intend to fight one hand-to-hand combat. I got to shoot him first. That's not according to the Geneva Conference, but right then I didn't worry about Geneva Conference. I just worried about on number one, you know.
Yeah. So you didn't want to get in hand-to-hand combat?
No, no.
I don't blame you, yeah.
Because them fellows were good now. I ain't lying to you. I tell you, Germans was good fighters, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah, they had to be. But they got raised when they were real young to be good fighters.
Oh yeah.
Very young. What about the Russians? Did you encounter any Russians coming in, Russian soldiers?
Them Russians were nasty people, you know.
But you didn't encounter any personally?
Oh no.
Okay, yeah.
But you just couldn't be friends to them.
Yeah.
Now Germans, if you picked you out one, that was one of the best friends you had. But you know, they told us, they said, we love the American people. They said, we don't fight because we want to, we fight because we have to.
Yeah. They had the ideology. Go ahead with the next
Did you
section.
have a friend? Did you have a German friend?
Oh yeah, I had a couple of German friends. I mean, he told me about some of his experience, and I told him. I'm going to tell you one little incident that happened. I was also a first scout there. A first scout always goes out front to draw the fire so main troops don't come up there. And this evening, I went out there, and the captain told me, he said, Tindal, I want you to go out and scout that hill over there and see if any Germans set on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little knoll there. I climbed up the knoll there. And just like I got at the top, whenever I got to the top, I was looking at the Germans dead in the eyes. I done like that, and he done the same way. He turned around, crawl back down. I turn around, crawl back down. So
That was a close encounter.
yeah. So I got back and told Captain Harris what happened. He said, that's all right, but they already had the mortars and everything set out. They just cut a circle out down there about the side of that valley. We got down there, man, there were Germans all laying all over the place. He said, Sullivan, you done a good job. He told him hello and goodbye.
Wow. So where were you when the war was over? When the war ended? Where were you?
On the ends rail, pulling guard duty on the ends rail.
So you remember it. Was there a celebration or anything or changes or?
You're just glad to hear it. You know, you don't kind of imagine what the sound of just a drum of shots being fired. And I tell you, whenever the ceasefire, it was so quiet, it almost run you crazy. Now, it don't sound logical, but it is. It'll almost run you crazy. You use that drum all the time. Mm-hmm. When it ceases, you don't hear it no more.
So Sullivan, I've always, you see these new movies with all these soldiers clean cut and short hair. What did y'all really look like over there after a few weeks of fighting?
Well, after being cut off from your front line for 31 days, you look kind of rough. And Charlotte, we was cut off my outfit for 31 days. We didn't get no shower, shaving, and nothing.
Yeah, I always thought they made these movies too romantic looking. When movie stars have to have short hair and clean cut head.
You know, I'm gonna tell y'all something. They had a meeting, a fellow, and he was talking about all these invasions, about South Africa and about Norman and all that. And one of his helpers was sitting back in the audience with me. So he was telling them most of the stuff. He's telling it pretty well right, because he had his dates right. I couldn't remember the dates. And when he got through, I said, now I know your friend told it just like he's got it wrote down. But I said, I ain't got this wrote down. This young by memory. I said, but he didn't tell the full story there. He said, how you mean? I said, he didn't tell nothing about after establish a beachhead, or have a staging area where they regrouped so they could replace the ones that was killed. So he got there, he told me, he said, man, he said, you got a fellow back here. He said, he knows more about that than you do. So he said, maybe I should have got you to got up there and help me. I said, no, you done a good job. You had your dates and times together, but I said, I don't have that.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, let's go ahead. Next one.
So when did you come back home? When did they get you out of there and bring you back home?
Well, right after the war, and we did 6 months duty on the Inns River there, I stand pulling guard duty.
Oh.
And then they told me one morning, said, you're going back to the States. I said, oh yeah. He said, you got two choices. Go back to the States now and take 45 days at home, or go to the Pacific. I said, well, I'll take the 45 days at home, but I don't care nothing about the trip to the Pacific. I said, I've done enough of traveling for right now. So, next morning, Captain told me, he said, what time to be ready, the truck would pick me up, So, they loaded a bunch of us in a truck there at Cal, back down to Havre, France.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got down there, and they told us when we got there, they said, there's going to be 5,000 of you not going to be able to go, because they said, we only got one ship come in, and they said, you're not going to be able to carry just what that ship will hold. So, old boy that I went to school with, the first one I'd seen since I left the States, I knew. We was in a donut line, and I heard somebody call my name. I said, man, who knows me out of all that crowd? I looked, and he was standing in another line over there. So he left and come over there and said, man, I don't care nothing about these donuts now. So we stood there and talked there. Time everything broke up, So he said, boy, he said, I reckon I'm going to be one of the unlucky ones that's not going to get to leave you. And he said, you probably go before I will. I said, I don't know. So anyhow, the next morning when they got up and started calling names off, my name was the first one they called aboard ship. That was the best sound I ever heard in my life. So then, whenever I got home, now he had wrote a letter to his mom and daddy before I got home. Of course, when I got back, we landed in Camp Miles Standish, Massachusetts. That's where we landed back in the States. So then after that, we just kind of shifted from one base to the other, I guess trying to find where to put us. So I finally got home. I got home like the night, and his daddy and mama came over there the next day about 12 o'clock. He said, we understand you saw CL. I said, yeah. He said, we got a letter from him. He told him he'd seen you, that you got to come back, and he did. Now that's how much faster I traveled in the mail there. So they said, tell me all about it. Tell me how he looked. I said, well, a man that's been through battle, I said, he looks pretty good. He said, how was his spirits? I said, well, he was happy like he always was. But anyhow, they sent him back to Belgium. So after he went back to Belgium, he met a girl that married over there and sent her home before he did. That was a mistake he made, according to his daddy. He said, you don't know why he couldn't leave that woman over there where she belonged.
Oh, okay. So how were things with your family? I mean, when you finally came back home, how was the whole community and your family and
You know what?
glad to see you and
Now it had been about, I guess about 4 or 5 years some of my family has seen me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what kind of letters you write, oh, they censor it so it don't make no sense. And I got home one morning about 5 o'clock in the morning. My daddy was working at shipyard in Savannah. And so I walked out, I knocked on the door and I said, y'all gonna sleep all day? And I think every light in the house come on there. They got up, we had quite a reunion. And in the meantime, I had a baby sister been born since I was gone. And so that told me that's your baby sister. I tell you now, she lived up to her name, baby sister. So then after my wife died, my children don't want me living by myself. So she was in the meantime, she had lost her husband. They were living in California. She came from California to live with me. But she was a little sister I wasn't around when she was growing up.
Yeah.
You know. So then she finally decided to go back to California. And then that's when I ended up in here.
Okay. Okay.
This is a good place, yeah.
Good. So you adjusted back to civilian life. I can't even tell. Have you remained in contact? Are you still in contact with some of your buddies?
Well, just like I tell you,
Yeah.
one day that I tried to get in contact with him when he was going. But you know, well, all the people I've known, I have not run into one yet in here that was in 65th Division, you know.
Wow. Okay. So how did all your experiences, your wartime experiences, affect your life?
None. The worst part, I've always tried to shut it out of my life, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't dwell on stuff that worried me. In other words, as my sister said, you can turn the world outside and accept it in anytime you want to.
Mm. So what message would you like to leave for the younger generation?
Always remember to respect your country, because your country respects you.
That's a very good note to leave us on. Thank you.
Well, we can just expound on that. We got about 3 more minutes. I'd like for you to, you got some great stories, and would you like to leave us with one of your wartime stories that you think of? Because we got to get 30 minutes here.
I got
30 minutes?
Yeah, they want 30 minutes.
Okay.
We got 27 and 22 right now.
Okay.
I got so many it'll take me a month to tell them.
Another story about encounters with the enemy, or encounters or on the D-Day, the beaching front. How long did it take you to get off the beach?
Well, you know, they almost had to board that invasion after it was underway on kind of the weather so bad they couldn't get no aircraft cover on there.
Right.
But once they got the ball rolling, it rolled. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How long were you just on the beach for one day, and then you got off for half a day, a few hours?
Well, that thing is just a matter of hours. You was off the beach while we're still living, you know.
Uh-huh. But you said 200 got killed out of your company.
They had
255.
250 and 200 of them got killed. That's how many was missing whenever they had a head count. You know?
And that was mostly on the beach. And
yeah, all of that happened on the beach.
So everybody's just getting mowed down around you.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
That's why I say you're just so scared to you, just like a zombie, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long it take you to realize you was hit if you got shot, you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you see any of the men that just got shell shocked and started walking away? You see those in the old films sometimes. Did you ever see that?
I saw quite a few of them.
Guys just couldn't take it and just started walking away.
But the thing about it, you know, people don't know if you got some bad experience in your life, you dwell on that thing, sooner or later it's going to catch up with you.
Oh yeah.
But if you make up your mind that you're in a different world now, in a different life, go with that life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how many medals? What medals did you get?
You know, believe it or not, my bag got lost from the time we landed in the States, so it finally caught up with me in Campbell, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them I can remember is I had a couple battle ribbons, and I don't know, I had 3 or 4 there, but I can't even remember. It wasn't their Purple Heart, though, I'll tell you
Okay.
that.
Okay.
You were very fortunate, very
Yeah,
very blessed.
yeah. And one fellow said, I don't live for the past, I live for the future. So that makes 2 of us.
Well,
Right.
You know, my bad experience is like I say, I don't dwell on it. I try to cut it out of my life and put the good parts in that.
yeah,
Something I got to live with every day.
yeah. Yeah, well, this has been a wonderful interview. I really appreciate your stories here, Sullivan.